everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Referee's Discretion. I'm Codd Sinclair, and today we are starting our four-part trick-or-treat series. The series is 4 weeks of reviews from WCW's Halloween Havoc pay-per-view event. For each review, I will be joined by someone you have seen on PW World WrestleCast. And for part one, it is none other than Jeff the Hitman Hall. Jeff, how are you doing?
I am doing great. Again, thank you for having me on the show. The honor is truly yours.
Some of the viewing audience does not know this, but some people do. We were supposed to collab on the ECW Anarchy Rules review I put out a couple weeks ago, but in post-production, the audio did not come out properly. So we got together, decided it was best to stay on schedule for Referee's Discretion, so I took the helm on that one. So in return, I felt that it was absolutely necessary to give you the first overall pick in which show you wanted to do out of the four, and this is the one. This is the one. So,
thank you. Back for the first time, I guess. You gave me the choice. I picked 92. I'm a purist, so you know.
Oh yeah, this is gonna get pure, all right. So. We are looking at WCW Halloween Havoc 1992, taking place October 25th from the Philadelphia Civic Center. And right off the bat, you know that this is going to be an incredible show just because of the intro. You hear Sting's howl, you hear an evil Jake Roberts laugh, and then you just get wrestling ghost faces just flying all over the screen. And
Ghosts and Ghouls.
Ghosts and Ghouls, baby. Show kicks off Pyro Galore, greeted by Tony Schiavone and the legendary Bruno Sammartino, who I thought at first was going to be commentary, but then it turns out that they were just the hosts. They run through the card. Eventually, they do kick it to the commentary team for the night, Jim Ross and Jesse the Body Ventura at ringside, who immediately begin to pump up, spin the wheel, make the deal. You ready for that one, right?
I am, and man, there's nothing like Jesse's voice. I mean, It's just make the deal. I mean, I just wanted to know about it so much more.
Yeah, and it's not just here. It's just throughout the whole card, just even and this is me jumping ahead a little bit, but even going through when he's telling us at home what the coal miner's glove is and what the match is, it just makes you get so much more invested in what he's trying to sell you.
You listen to it and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, if anybody else was trying to sell you either one of these concepts, I don't think it would be nearly as effective.
Nope.
All right, here we go. Kicking off with six-man tag. We have Arn Anderson, beautiful Bobby Eaton, and Michael P.S. Hayes versus the Z-Man Tom Zink, Johnny Gunn, and a young-looking franchise, Shane Douglas. This was booked as team veteran versus team young guys the entire match, even the way that they were working in the ring. You had the young team. They were a little bit more agile, moving around the ring. You had team veteran with some more methodical moves. What did you think of the match, though, Jeff?
The match. One spoiler alert. This is 92, so headlock, hammerlocks, sleepers, working body parts. If that's not your thing, then this isn't the pay-per-view for you. which don't get me wrong, I totally understand.
Yeah.
I thought the match was good. Bobby Eaton's probably one of the best workers ever, and I mean anybody will tell you that. P.S. Hayes is great, just being P.S. Hayes. I'm the biggest Shane Douglas mark there is, so you're not gonna get me, say nothing wrong about him. Your veteran team was over with the crowd, which is kind of your quote unquote heels. I mean, they kind of were the heels. Arn, they were popping for Arn like nobody's business.
So hard.
Oh yeah. And again, for the younger fans, just this WCW, the mat sound, just that mat, like that mat sound, and also with Gary Michael Capetta, just his, oh, look, and he just talks like, it's just great. It's just vintage WCW, good, bad, or indifferent. Whether you like it or not, that's fine. It was refreshing, and just it was good to go down memory lane a little bit. That's I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, compared to the 6-man tag matches you see, on mainstream, WWE, or even All Elite Wrestling. There's a lot of high spots. Everybody gets their stuff in for about a minute or so, and then it's the go home and we're good. But this had a lot of in-ring psychology stuff to it, especially with the way that the heels were working to the crowd, even though they weren't, supposed to be the faces, but, the crowd was treating them like that. I loved it. I loved every second of this. Getting to the finish, though, you have beautiful Bobby Eaton locking in a figure 4. Shane Douglas rolls over, but as soon as that happens, Bobby Eaton tags in Double A. We get a huge brawl, and then you have the Z-Man, Tom Zink. He gives a super kick to P.S. Hayes, and then you have Johnny Gunn, who hits a Luthez press for the win. I don't think since then that a Luthez press has ever been used to win, because it's always the signature move from Stone Cold Steve Austin in the late 90s, early 2000s. So a lot of people just view it as a transition move. But this got the win. And this is one of the things I loved about the entire card in general. And I'll mention it a couple times as we continue, but just the fact that you could have a wrestling match and not have a finisher be the finish. I think it's great booking, because you don't really know when the finish is going to come. It keeps your audience on the edge of their seats, and it just keeps you wanting more.
I think you're 100% correct, Codd. And a lot of this is just old school wrestling, just the time period, and kayfabe still being alive. And we're going to harp on this and touch on this probably for the remainder of the, of our, our show, or your show here. But yeah, it's simple things. This is also a time period too, when you look into the crowd, you see black, you see white, you see, all nationalities and creeds, you see 90-year-old women, you see kids, you see women. I mean, this is the kayfabe era where wrestling is alive and people are into it. So you see the emotion in the fans, and you see them, someone's in a headlock for 10 minutes. Now you're like, well, that's stupid. But back then, I mean, they're just cheering for the babyface to get out of it. You know what I mean? Just, come on, you can do it.
Yeah. It was more of a rah type of feel. Growing up with professional wrestling, and even in the early to mid 90s, and then once you hit the late 90s, everybody had to have a finisher. It was either a Stone Cold Stunner or a Rock Bottom, or maybe it was a Torture Rack. But overall, though, this match, I gave it a 1.5 count, which is equivalent to about a 3-star match. I thought it was a great opener. It definitely got the crowd intrigued, even though they, like you said earlier, they were behind the heels the entire time. Jesse Ventura makes a really good point towards the end of this match. How can you make a count when so many illegal men are in the ring?
So by this being your show and referee's discretion, I have a couple questions for you as well later on down the line about said things. But I mean, I agree with you. Jesse was the voice of reason. Good, bad, or indifferent. He was the voice of reason, and I enjoyed it. I gave this about 2.5 stars.
All right, moving on. We have Missy Hyatt backstage outside of Rick Rude's locker room when Harley Race walks up. She asks him if she can get in, to which he flat out responds no. So when she tries to get in, slams the door in her face, and then she says, "This is the first time Missy Hyatt hasn't been invited into a locker room." Boy, I popped hard for that. You have no idea.
There's a lot of you can tell it's 1992, unfortunately.
Oh, wait till we get to later. Oh, there's one segment. We'll get there. Moving on for now. Our next match, we have Flying Brian Pillman versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and this was exactly what I wanted it to be. You have somebody like Pillman who left this earth way too soon, and it's crazy that his son looks exactly like him. But his in-ring work and in-ring psychology is just absolutely incredible. It is leaps and bounds above anybody else on this card. And then Steamboat is that same mold though. And it's definitely prevalent in a lot of his, Ric Flair stuff. But this just kind of gave both men a platform to just work with the time that they were given. And this is a great match. I love this match.
This is, for the time period, when I say wrestling purist, this is what I'm talking about. And I understand every match isn't going to be this way. And I get it. And it shouldn't be. But these are two guys at the top of their game. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat is Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and could have a match with a paper bag and it would be fine. Pillman's heel work is great. You have everything you want. You got high spots. You got somewhat of a catch can, going on. Like I said, good heel work. It's just great. It's a wrestling clinic.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said earlier, there wasn't necessarily a like a finisher.
Mm-hmm.
You get a couple counters into a finish, and both didn't look good. You left that not thinking like, oh man, like Pillman looked like crap. No, he looked great. He just lost to another really good wrestler. And I think you could, in modern wrestling, it hurts now, but I think back then, I know back then, you could have a lot of matches where both guys look good and people go over clean. You just could do it.
Yeah.
The wrestling was believable. You thought, well, the next person will get even. It's not so much about booking, and a lot of it's kayfabe as well. So, I understand that. But yeah, on the grand scale of things, this match was absolutely great. And like you said, two guys at the top of their profession, at the top of their game, just really good.
Yeah. To get to the finish though that you were referring to, Pillman goes to the top, connects with a crossbody, gets a near fall. Steamboat hits a backbreaker, goes to the top himself, hits a big sunset flip. They exchange pinning attempts. They reverse them on each other. And then, like you said, Pillman just gets caught. And they both come out looking great. I gave this a 2 count, equivalent to 4 stars. It was an absolutely solid match here. Good in-ring psychology. We touched on it a little bit, being that this is an old school match. And this is kind of, I think, what needs to make a small return. And I think that AEW has done a good job incorporating it in very small doses. But just like the first match, it wasn't a true finisher to win. Cody did that a couple times through his AEW championship reign. Well, I guess his first championship reign now. But he would just keep catching people with just like roll ups or quick backslides or something. But it was fast paced. It was hard hitting. And it's just the fact that Steamboat was a little bit more of a veteran than Pillman, and he's out wrestled a younger guy.
I mean, that's pretty much it. You had stiff chops. You had Ricky's arm drags, which are legendary. It was great, like you said. You left there thinking, oh, man, Pillman just got caught, or he was trying to do a little too much. You know what I mean? And Ricky got him. Yeah, absolutely. I 4 stars, easy.
Yeah. So then we go backstage. Teddy Long, holy smokes, he is in the locker room, and he was with Masahiro Chono and some of his associates.
Teddy Long.
Yeah, baby. One of which being the New Japan president Hiro Matsuda, and eventually this whole segment is just for them to announce who their official is going to be for Chono's match against Rick Rude later in the evening, and it is Kensuke Sasaki. Boy, does he not look tougher than a friggin' $2 steak, just standing there in his friggin' jumpsuit. I swear. Oh.
Yeah, he does. He looks like random task. You know what I mean? He's just ready to. If he walked by me, I'd get out of his way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Don't worry. By the end of the night, I know it's going to be hard to believe, but he even looks like a Chippendales dancer by the end of the night. Teddy kicks it over to Tony Schiavone, who's with Cowboy Bill Watts, giving us just some backstage news and, just some wrestling updates. He announces Rick Rude has chosen Harley Race as his official. And spoiler alert, what they do when they get to this match is you have good old Ole Anderson flip a coin to decide which one of the officials is going to officiate the match. And we'll get to that a little bit later. But then Watts also goes on to say that Stunning Steve Austin is going to be Dr. Death's tag team partner, and Terry Bam Bam Gordy, who was initially scheduled for this, has been indefinitely suspended. And then finish it off, since Rick Rude is the current WCW United States Heavyweight Champion, and he is facing Chono. Rude has chosen a surrogate champion to face Nikita Koloff, and it is Big Van Vader. And they jump right into this match. And this is no disqualification. And then Medusa banned from ringside. They kept that stipulation.
Yes.
And then it turns out that they also end up banning Rick Rude, and they also ban Harley Race, which I thought was funny because you have Vader coming out to the ring, and you have Rick Rude in his pomp and circumstance and his music playing, and I thought the ultimate swerve was on there for a second. I really did.
Well, if you just watch it on mute, you would think Rick Rude was going to wrestle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if you put it on mute and you just watch it, like, oh, well, Rick Rude's about to this guy's going to wrestle with a belt. No, it's actually Vader. if I could just take a second. You have a pay-per-view. We'll get to some of the other guys as well. But you got a pay-per-view with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Cowboy Bill Watts, Ole Anderson, Harley Race, and again, I'll save some for later, but, beautiful Bobby Eaton. I mean, it's wild. It's just crazy. Just crazy.
Yeah. But to the match itself, it's a big hoss fight. You have a lot of tests. You have a lot of tests of strength. And this is a no disqualification match. So when you have Koloff who clotheslines Vader over the top rope, you do hear a couple gasps from the crowd, thinking that the match is over because this is Bill Watts' WCW. For those who don't know, back in the Watts era, anytime you threw your opponent over the top rope, you were disqualified.
Or driver.
There you go. And and we'll get to that one a little later. But then you have Koloff, who then chases Vader to the outside, goes for his sickle clothesline, hits the ring post. Everybody back in. Vader throws an elbow to the bad arm. And then Vader connects with a powerbomb for the win. Nothing overly great here after the first two matches that we watched. I gave it a 1 count. It's equivalent to a 2-star rating. It's not bad. It was almost a squash match, honestly. Vader always looks like he's working stiff, and it shows here for sure. What did you think?
Man, Vader was working snug, stiff, however you want to call it. I mean, those clotheslines, man. If you're gonna send them. But he's catching Koloff like, kind of on the bottom of the jaw and of the neck. You know what I mean? Just, ugh. And it looked like, Koloff couldn't do nothing if he wanted to. You know what I mean? Like you said, big hoss fight. Nothing, nothing fancy. I probably gave it about 1.5 stars. That's kind of where I had it. 2 tops. I mean, Vader looked good. I mean, if I were in the crowd back then, you'd be afraid of him.
Yeah. And this is crazy. One of those clotheslines actually ends Nikita Koloff's in-ring career. This was his last wrestling match.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. He made a few appearances in the early TNA days when they were still with NWA. He appeared as Mr. Wrestling 4.
I didn't know that as well.
But this was his last match. He suffered a herniated disc because of one of the clotheslines that he had received from Vader, and that was it.
I mean, unfortunately that makes a lot of sense.
Listen, and it's 2020 now, but we're even seeing the results in current wrestling, where even wrestling a little stiff, or maybe even over wrestling, can cause some injuries here. So
I agree. I was listening to other people's podcasts and just wrestling knowledge in general, and you think about the guys that wrestled 80s, well, even earlier, but let's just say 80s and 90s. I mean, they're working. Most guys really didn't work that stiff. I mean, really didn't work that stiff. You know what I mean? And they're having problems. So what do you think is going to happen when these guys, what I'm saying? What do you think is going to happen when your strong style guys and all those guys working now that are jumping off this and jumping off that in 30 years? It just makes you wonder,
Yeah. But we do get a video package for Starrcade 1992 Battle Bowl.
I figured you'd enjoy that.
Oh, this is not the first time that same video package pops up, and I popped so dang hard. I'm like, that's gonna have to be one we watch here together later down the road.
Full disclosure, I know it's the 90s, but like I just enjoyed all the graphics and all the like the swooping ghosts and just all the everything you saw on screen. I didn't forget, but you get commercials for the toll-free hotlines. I'd called those once or twice and got in trouble for that, once or twice at the house. I just not miss, but some of the stuff you literally forget about until you start watching some of these old pay-per-views that still have the commercials on them, and you know what I mean. It's great. It's great stuff.
Oh yeah. JR kicks it backstage to Teddy Long, who is now in an interviewing role again.
Mm-hmm.
This time he is with Dr. Death, Steve Williams, and Stunning Steve Austin. He asks Dr. Death if he feels confident with Austin as his partner. He then replies, "Trick or treat." He says that the treat is that Steve Austin is his partner. The trick is that they have to face him. And then Steve Austin with an interesting response. Teddy Long asks him how he feels, and then Steve Austin just says, "We'll see him in a few seconds." And I'm like, what? And he's, "We'll see in a few seconds then." So then immediately it kicks over to Missy Hyatt, and she is with the natural Dustin Rhodes and Barry Windham. Windham says him and Dustin have no problems, and they're excited to get in the ring with Austin. So it seems on the surface that this is just it's just the tag team champions, and they're welcoming all challengers. And this is a new tag team, as we heard earlier, because Terry Gordy is indefinitely suspended.
We'll see.
Yeah. So we are on to that match now. It is Dr. Death Steve Williams, Stunning Steve Austin versus the Natural Dustin Rhodes and Barry Windham. And spoiler alert, this is my favorite match of the night. I absolutely loved this from start to finish. And it wasn't even, and gosh.
This was kind of a schmoz a little bit at times.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Getting to what I was saying earlier, you got a tag match with the Natural Dustin Rhodes, Barry Windham, Dr. Death Steve Williams, and Stunning Steve Austin. Let's let that blow your mind.
Yeah.
But then she manages to go under.
Yeah. So this match is for the Unified World Tag Team Championships, and it is a 30-minute time limit, which is going to be very important here in a few moments. This is definitely a slow burn match, but the in-ring action doesn't match that billing, because the whole match from start to finish, you would have rest holds, but they would be quick. They'd be quick, and we're on to the next move, quick and on to the next move. It was definitely back and forth. What did you think overall, though?
Overall, I mean, I enjoyed the match. I mean, I thought at times it was just a little sloppy. I didn't necessarily like the finish, but I guess I'll leave it alone for now. But yeah, great match, and well, not great match, but solid match for the time. And what we talked about earlier too with kayfabe and emotion in wrestling, they did a bridge, and when they bridged up, like the crowd, like you heard the crowd like, ooh, for a bridge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, for a bridge. Dustin did a pile driver, and the crowd just blew. You know what I mean? And I get wrestling can't be like that now, but I just miss, you watch it and it's just funny. It's just cool to watch. You know what I mean? Guys doing a bridge and it, blowing everybody's mind,
Yeah. But getting to said finish, we have Wyndham getting worked over. Dustin getting worked over. He makes the hot tag. The ref doesn't see it. So the ref is restraining Barry Windham, and then Dr. Death throws Dustin Rhodes over the top rope, which should be another disqualification. But see no evil. So then we have Barry Windham goes for a scoop slam, and then they have Steve Austin's feet who knock the ref out of the ring, and then you have good old Nick Patrick coming down to the ring, goes to check on the ref, sees that Austin is pinning Windham, so he slides in and counts the 3. You have the bell going off. You got bells and whistles everywhere. You got people celebrating. But then you have Dustin Rhodes and Barry Windham getting right back to work on him. And it's pandemonium at this point. It's a brawl. And then out of nowhere, we stop ringing the bell. There's no real announcement. You have Steve Austin going for a tombstone. Dustin Rhodes reversed it with one of his own. It only gets him a near fall. The time is winding down. This time the bell rings for good. The match reaches its time limit. It's considered a draw. Maybe I liked the finish more than you because of this mindset of just wrestling doesn't do anything like this anymore.
I agree with you. I misspoke. This finish was fine. There's another finish that yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
I got you.
Yeah. It's running together. It's been a long day. This finish was fine. The other one we'll get to. Yeah. I didn't have a problem with this finish. I thought it kind of got sloppy at points, but I mean, wrestling now can be sloppy as well. So if I'm going to equally get on things, I'm going to equally get on them. But I didn't think this was a bad match at all. And for the star-studded cast that you had and the way they wrestled and how they wrestled, Stone Cold. I mean, oh good Lord, Stunning Steve. is great. And JR's calling. JR is saying he was got to get him in a stun gun. Barry Windham is probably one of the, not misused, but if he really wanted to be a superstar, and he was so good in the ring, just his movements, his footwork, everything. And Dustin is Dustin. Dr. Death, tough as nails. It just was, like I said, 4 guys that are really good wrestlers, and it showed. Really all singles guys, to be honest with you. But in a tag match, and it was good.
Yeah. I think I like this a little more than you. I gave it a 2.5 count. It was only a 2 count until the last 5 minutes, and then I was a huge fan of the finish. I just loved all the pandemonium and chaos, and you could just feel the crowd just getting more on the edge of their seat as you got to the 30-minute limit. Just getting closer and closer, and you could just feel the tension in the room. And then all that stuff with Judge, which is kind of the swerve ending, the second ref. It was. I thought it was all great. All 4 men put on a wrestling clinic. I thought it was a little bit sloppy, but it wasn't sloppy to where there was anything botched completely or anything missed. But I love the fact that the booking here, that whoever was booking this at the time wasn't afraid to make decisions like this, to make championship contests go to a draw. I think that, and I'm referencing AEW again, but they've had one draw, I believe, and that's been Cody and Darby Allin. But I think a draw with a time limit championship match, I think it's a great way to continue storyline. I think it's a great way to protect everybody involved. I wish we did more of it in contemporary wrestling. But again, we're just sitting here being purists. So
Oh, absolutely. I gave it 2 stars. There's nothing wrong, if done correctly, with leaving the people with more. Wanting more. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think with this booking and just modern wrestling, companies have gotten away from that. Like every match can't be a 5-star match, and every angle can't necessarily be buttoned up within reason with one finish. So like you said, the fact that they let it go to a draw is fine. I looking at the fans, I don't think they left thinking like, man, like we didn't necessarily get our money's worth, or man, like we should have got more or less. No, I think, that's all competitors competing. And it didn't get, it kind of like, kind of wacky there toward the end, but it wasn't bad at all. Not at all.
So now we get Tony Schiavone. He is with Vader, a Harley Race, and Paul E. Dangerously. Paul goes just on a huge tangent, saying that all of Rick Rude's success is because of him. Everything has happened tonight because of him. Medusa out of nowhere cuts him off, shakes Vader, and says, as the first woman in WCW, I congratulate you. And Paul says he's had enough. He goes on a very misogynistic tirade, ultimately saying that because he's a man and she's a woman, that he is better than her in every way. Medusa looks to be almost in tears, and Paul says, let me spell it out for you because you're a woman. You are Fired, and she immediately jumps him. Crowd is flipping out for this.
They're hot.
Huge pop.
Yep.
It's crazy to think that, Paulie on the mic in 92 and in 2020, they can be almost exactly the same. It's crazy.
Just as sharp. Listen, I obviously don't agree with what Paulie's saying, and he's working. Don't get me wrong. This is a work. I actually remember this because they're setting up for the hand behind his back match against Medusa, but With that being said, I mean, I thought the work was good. It was believable. It got the crowd worked up. The crowd was, not behind it, but I mean, they were invested. Also, Paulie, when he first came on, was talking about, giving people half of the winner's purse and all that stuff. And that's just good. That's good wrestling. One-on-one for the old school people. Again, wrestling is a competition, where money, titles, things are on the line, trying to make a better life for yourself. So I thought it was good.
Yeah. I'll, interject this with another AEW reference. When we had the Jericho entrance at AEW Revolution, and he had the choir singing, and everybody was singing with him, and he was making his way down the ramp, and oddly enough, JR jumps right in and says, because he had Ortiz and Santana with him, and he's walking the ring. JR says, champions walk here. Things change when you're not the champion. They've got something invested in it too, and I keep saying it, and it sounds like I'm being a huge AEW mark, but just a lot of what they're trying to incorporate is a lot of what early 90s wrestling was. And good for them, because so far this card has been pretty strong for the most part. But here we go, because it's time to spin the wheel, make the deal. The one to spin the wheel is a man called Sting. Listen, this dang wheel gets smoke, pyro, and fire, but no other wrestler on this entire card gets that at all.
No.
Also, you don't even spin the wheel. It's just a giant lever, and you pull it, and it spins.
I don't know, but this popped me bad. So the whole thing's coming together, and it's fine, and then some random guy just walks out and moves the spinner, like, the lever over, and then plugs up a cord, and then just walks off like, I mean, don't get me wrong, it is 92, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
I was like, well, that's all right.
And when this thing is spinning, it keeps getting pyro. Like, it's spinning, you get bursts of pyro, and then it stops on the coal miner's glove match. We get a brief explanation from Jesse Ventura, who and essentially this is an item on a pole match. So they take a coal miner's glove, and the way that he was making it sound is that it was laced with hardened steel. If you retrieve that off the pole, you are allowed to use it on your opponent. So I guess a nice little segue between Paul E. berating Medusa and this holy dumpster fire of a match. This match for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, it is Rick Rude being accompanied by Medusa, who Rick Rude is supposed to be the heel here, gets a huge pop because of what just happened with Medusa.
Massive.
And then his opponent, of course, is Masahiro Chono, being accompanied to the ring by Hiro Matsuda. The coin flip, as we mentioned earlier, was to see which official would be in the ring, and it is Harley Race. So then you have Kensuke Sasaki on the outside, officiating from there. This match infuriated me within an inch of my life. Go ahead.
Okay, so at first, it kind of had a big fight feel.
Oh yeah.
At first, I was like, okay, well, I mean, I kind of knew it was going to go in this way just because they had too many things going on. But I was like, okay, this is a big fight feel. Everybody's out here. It looks legit. You're seeing Ole again. He's coming out making sure things are where they need to be because this is special. It's about where it ends.
Yeah. It's a lot of rest holds. And when I say rest hold, I mean it's two grown men resting on one another for the majority of this 22-minute match.
I timed it. There was a sleeper hold for, let me look down here. Yeah, okay, so there was a sleeper hold for about a minute and 17.
Yeah, this is levels of, Hogan versus Warrior from, Halloween Havoc 98. Where they were doing that test of strength for like 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
This is that level. But jumping right to the finish, because there's no sense in getting all that middle mishmash. Chono goes for a big boot on Rick Rude, but catches Harley Race right in the face, sends him to the outside. Then you have Sasaki that comes over to check on him. Chono throws Rick Rude over the top rope, takes out both refs. This is where the rule comes into play. We'll get to it in a second.
Double ref.
Yeah, double ref bump. So now I'm the third ref. So Rick Rude gets back in, hits a Rude Awakening, goes for a pin. Obviously, no ref. Goes to the top for a diving knee. Chono almost no-sells, the friggin' Rude Awakening. Rolls right up, locks in an STF. He taps, and then you have Sasaki in the ring, who then calls for the bell. So then you have Sasaki who raises Chono's hand. Harley gets back and raises Rick Rude's hand. Then we get the announcement and that Harley Race is disqualifying Masahiro Chono because he threw Rick Rude over the top rope. Chorus of boos. I so hated this. It was so – all right, so I'm giving this a half a star, and that's really generous because it was 22 minutes, okay? If it was half the time, even a little bit more exciting, and it would have been fine, but it had, like you said, a big fight feel. It had everything you wanted. You had a title on the line. You had two big name guys who, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of months ago before this had almost a 5-star classic.
Yeah.
And then you bring them to WCW, and this is what Bill Watts does, okay? Anytime you have a foreign wrestler come over, they're always severely underbooked. And it shows here because this match, it was slow, plotting. It was boring at times. It was clean, which is why I gave it the half count. But it felt like this was like a 45-minute match. It was so long, and it was the complete opposite. If you watch their first encounter and then you watch this expecting the same thing, you were severely disappointed.
So I gave it a half star as well. I am a wrestling purist, and this is not what it's about. This was an old school match, but it was just bad. It was too many headlocks, too much time. It just wasn't great. Now, like you said, it wasn't hokey. There wasn't anything wrong with it per se. But it was rough around the edges. Halfway through the match, you had woo chants. I know you heard those,
Yeah.
And then with the finish and a double ref bump, and it just guys going over the top rope, and then you start selecting what you didn't see and selecting what you did see. A half star, and like you said, I'm just being generous.
Yeah. So unfortunately, 2 months from now, Rick Rude suffered a neck injury. It will put him on the shelf for a couple of months. He came back and he just didn't seem like the same wrestler in the ring. And then look about 2 years down the road in '94 was when he was facing Sting and took that suicide dive
to the
that was his last match. Would be then. It was Sting, and if I remember correctly, it was a suicide dive. But the way that the ring was set up, it was the ring. So it was almost like a smaller Road Wild-esque setup where you had the ring, but then outside of the ring you had another platform before the floor. And when Rude took that suicide dive, his back hit like the very edge of that platform and just messed his back all kinds up.
It was
So,
just unlucky. It wasn't
mhm.
unsafe wrestling. It just
Yeah,
was because I mean, if he's maybe 4 inches further, he's probably fine. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Ugh, just
Um,
sucks.
well, let's boost your spirits up because we get another video package for Starcade 1992 Battle Bowl.
Oh,
Immediately from that to a test of strength shown by Cactus Jack with a giant sledgehammer and some cinder blocks on the back of the Barbarian. We got we got a small package earlier in the show where he's running up to random guys in a ring and just taking scoop slams. And this is just, I guess, Cactus Jack's way of preparing the Barbarian for Ron Simmons' Power Slam. And nothing like a carnival-esque show of strength to get that point across.
absolutely.
Um, this match also had a big fight feel to it. So we do have the Barbarian being accompanied to ring by Cactus Jack versus the WCW World Heavyweight Champion Ron Simmons. You see him, getting led to the ring by a boatload of security, and then you have Teddy Long right in front of him, holding the title up.
Yep.
All things grand. Barbarian is not a main eventer.
No.
Gosh.
He just looked the part. I mean, he's a specimen. He just looked the part.
Yeah.
Ron Simmons looks like just a genetic. I mean, I know this, but he just looks like a genetic freak. I mean, he just looks like. I mean, well, because he is. But I mean, he just looks like he was made in a lab. You know what I mean? He looks like $1 million here. Barbarian too. Don't get me wrong. Barbarian is nothing to he's not a slouch either. But if you're just talking about white meat babyface, Ron Simmons just looks like $1 million here.
Yeah. Crowd is fully behind him. A lot of manhandling by both men throughout the match, but just a lot of powdering from the Barbarian, going to talk to Cactus Jack about strategy. So towards the end of the match, we do get Ron Simmons. He hits the comeback button. It's a big shoulder tackle on the Barbarian. Then you get Cactus Jack who gets involved, gets on the apron. Ron Simmons goes to hit him. Barbarian takes advantage, goes up top, hits a flying headbutt. Ron Simmons kicks out. Then this finish is super quick. You have the Barbarian who whips against the ropes. Simmons just catches him with a power slam and gets a win. I don't really know if the goal here was to, make the Barbarian seem like a greater main event presence. But this is not how you do it.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe, like you said, maybe that's what they were trying to do, but that's not what happened. Ron Simmons looked fine. You made Barbarian look like a schmuck,
Yeah. I gave this the same rating as the last match, though. I gave it a half count, which is equivalent to a half star. This is boring again. Now, granted, I would rather watch this match than the last match, but the crowd was dead for this.
I gave it the same half star. It almost seems like something happened, and it almost seems like Simmons was maybe supposed to wrestle somebody else. You know what I mean? And something happened, and they just kind of had to move on the fly because there's no way. We may have to do our homework on this, pay-per-view before and pay-per-view after. But there's no way that this was the plan, from the get-go for him to wrestle Barbarian. There's no way. And I also think that's probably why Cactus Jack got involved in the sense of who was training him, because there's no way that this was the plan.
Yeah. Well, nothing like a good time for some expert analysis. So Jared kicks it back to Tony Schiavone, Bruno Sammartino, and they bring in none other than Eric Watts for said expert analysis, and he is welcomed with, thank the Lord, a chorus of boos.
Uh-huh.
Popped hard for that, I tell you.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing like some great expert analysis. And then they have Ron Simmons that comes up, goes on a babyface promo rant, and then looks at Eric Watts.
Yeah, he tried to put Barbarian over.
Yeah.
Again, hopefully not.
Yeah, and then puts over Eric Watts, saying, "Hey, hard work and determination, and you'll be where I am. Lord forbid if you're there where he is." Maybe that's why WCW went under. But so then we go back to Jim Ross and Jesse Ventura. Jesse the Body going back over the rules of the coal miners glove match. And then remind us that this is a lights out unsanctioned match. So this is pretty much anything goes. The ref is only in the ring to count the pinfall or make the submission call. So it's Jake the Snake Roberts versus Sting. This is the aforementioned coal miners glove match. Oh boy. You want to start, Mr. Purist?
If you stand on its own when you say it out loud, you're thinking, okay, well, Jake the Snake and Sting, well, that's gonna be great. You know what I mean? This was okay.
Look at this! Look at this stupid thing. The glove's on top.
Well, once the full disclosure. Once I saw how tall that pole was, you knew damn well Jake the Snake wasn't going up there to get it.
Listen.
So
the man called Sting better get up there, because the only way that Jake Roberts is getting that glove is if he chops the dang pole down.
Yeah, so I knew, and I remember watching this, but it had been a long time. So I knew Jake wasn't going to get, when they came out and they hit the ropes a couple times, I was like, okay, now I actually remember this finish. But watching it when they first came out, man, he's great. And again, with emotion and stuff like that, like the match isn't anything to write home about. But with that being said, the emotion is in it. And when Jake comes out there, people are afraid of Jake. Not because he's he is tall, but not because he's some physical freak or he looks like he's going to do you some bodily harm. No, you believe everything he says. He looks like a wacko. He's just really, really, really believable. And back then, during kayfabe, when Jake put the DDT on you, that was it. That just was it. Period.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, jumping right to that point in the match, he hits the DDT, starts to climb the pole. Sting recovers. He's out on the apron now. He runs towards Jake, who's trying to climb the pole, and he grabs it and, like Spider-Man swings to the other side, throws an elbow, climbs the pole to get the coal miner's glove.
Really climbs it, like not kayfabe.
Yeah, no, this is an actual climb.
Yeah, he didn't jump on the buckle and climbed it.
So all that's going on, Cactus Jack with a run in has Jake the snake, gets him the snake. Sting's got the glove now, gets down, punches him once in the side, and I guess forces Jake the snake to bite him in the neck. Sting just knocks him over and gets the pin.
And then Jake stumbles out like a madman because he's obviously poisoned.
Yeah, because this defanged cobra that was brought out is totally killing him. 100%.
But when that snake bit Jake in the face, listen to that play. Go back and watch it, Codd. Crickets. Yeah. I mean, crickets.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah. I thought at first, because the snake looked fake at first. Honestly, it did.
Real snake.
It was real.
Real snake. Real snake, and I'm sure it's devenomized or defanged or however. Well, it's not defanged because there was blood, but I'm sure there's no venom, or even if it's probably not even a poison.
Devenomized, I guess, yeah.
Who knows what type of snake it is? But it was a real enough snake to bite him in the face / neck and draw blood and have that whole place go quiet, boy. I can tell you that.
What did you grade this? Because I'm gonna make your night really bad with my grade. So go right ahead.
Um, I gave it a star. I only gave it a star. No. I mean, that's no. I'm not gonna knock that one. I gave it a star because there was still kind of some emotion behind. I mean, the wrestling match itself was awful, but
Yeah.
again, that night if you were there and you were left, you weren't saying that. You were thinking like, holy crap, um, Jake the Snake got bit in the face, the neck by a snake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Watching it real time, it probably wasn't as bad as it looked to us.
Yeah.
But but looking back, yeah, it's a rough one.
Listen, just for clarification, I gave this a 0 count. It's legendary garbage. The in-ring work, like you said, was nothing to write home about. It was fine. Just you can't overlook, especially when you have a gimmick match like this, where it's the coal miner's glove match. Okay, I want to rewind for a little bit because on the wheel you had 12 total selections that you could have made, and you're telling me that Bill Watts in that creative room, okay, looked at this, said, "Hey, let's get all these match stipulations on the wheel here. Okay, what do we want it to be, or do we just want to let it roll and whatever we get, we get?" Okay, because it seems like the latter of that was true. Okay, whatever the case may be, okay, change it. You can have any match you want. Okay, I agree with you that the match it had a lot of feeling to it. But I think the blow off shouldn't have been a coal miner's glove match where you climb a pole, get a glove, and then punch somebody. I don't think that should have been the blow off to a feud like this.
Well, with all those stipulations and the wrestling personnel and talent that you had, it shouldn't have been. I agree with you. It shouldn't have been that. Because if you wanted to have a snake gimmick in the match, well, you could have did that literally with anything else minus a coal miner's glove match. So yeah, I agree with you. They dropped the ball with the coal miner's glove. Because I mean, it could have been any one of the other stipulations they had: dog collar, bull rope, literally anything else.
Yeah.
This miner's glove match was. I mean, spoiler alert here. I'm not a fan of a coal miner's glove match because in theory it's good because once you get that thing on your hand, boom. Well, and they should be boom, one shot, they're down, it's over. So emphasis on actually getting the glove. But like I said, with the talent that you had with Sting, you could have just did so much more. But
yeah, look forward here to a year. Halloween Havoc 1993. You had Cactus Jack and Big Van Vader, who also did Spin the Wheel, Make the Deal, and it was a Texas death match. Okay, you're telling me you couldn't have put these two in a cage and it would have been fine? I just don't understand where the booking logic is for a blow-off feud like this to be just a coal miner's glove match where we have to have the rules elaborately explained to us.
I agree.
I'm out of words. So that was it. That was WCW Halloween Havoc 1992. I gave the entire card as a whole 1 star out of 5. My Ric Flair award is going to the tag team title match where we had Steve Austin and Steve Williams against Barry Windham and Dustin Rhodes. The Russo award, the last third of this card, honestly, I hated every single moment of it. It started with the horrible NWA World Championship match. It carried to the WCW World Championship match, and then it finished with the Coal Miners Glove match. So the Russo Award, the last third of this card, because it was absolutely awful, this bumped it down. The last third bumped it down a whole star rating for the whole card for me, because I actually had it at 2 stars going into that, and then those 3 matches knocked it down to a 1 star. What did you think of the card as a whole, Jeff?
The card as a whole was rough for me. I'm with you. I mean, you probably could give it a 2-star match just on the Steamboat and Pillman match by its damn self, but I also gave it a 1. It had elements to be, like we talked before we even got on here. You say those names, and then you watch this card. Like, if someone told you all those names on this pay-per-view before and you watch the card, you're like, well, what the hell happened?
Yeah.
So, again, it's not always about knowing what's going to happen. It's how you do it, and its presentation. I think they dropped the ball on both of those. I mean, one match can't carry a whole damn card, unfortunately. But, yeah, I agree with you. This was mishandled. And probably the beginning lines of WCW not going under, because they didn't go to for years later, but just trending in the wrong direction at least.
Yeah. Well, listen, those are our thoughts on WCW Halloween Havoc 1992. You at home, what did you think of the event? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Remember to watch WrestleCast Live every Monday and Thursday on Facebook and YouTube, and listen on the go through Apple Podcast. Check out Patrick Lilly's Creative Control. Keep an eye out for the debut of Dwight Parker's Do Your Darn Homework. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, follow Podcast World Order on all social media platforms. If you like what we're doing and you want to support Podcast World Order, or you want to see more of these collab reviews, you can find us on Ko-fi at the link in the description box below. Jeff, where can they find you on social media?
I am on Twitter at Jeff M. Hall 1. Sports, wrestling, all wrapped up into one. That's pretty much it. And I agree with Codd. Support local wrestling. Support podcasts, whether it's ours or somebody else's. If you like what you see, like, comment, subscribe. If you don't, cut a promo on us. Won't bother me one bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you go ahead and cut a promo on us, we'll shout you out on the next episode.
Yeah, cut a promo on us. Continue to watch new wrestling to you, old, new. It could be even from last week. Continue to watch wrestling. Support local wrestling, not so much now, but when everything gets back to the way it's supposed to be, support local wrestling.
All right, for next week's episode is part 2 of our 4-part series of our Trick or Treat series with a review of WCW Halloween Havoc 1994. Tune in to WrestleCast on Monday to find out who the next special guest enforcer will be. From everyone here at Podcast World Order, thank you for watching. And remember, at the end of the day, it's referee's discretion. I'm Codd Sinclair. That's Jeff the Hitman Hall, and we'll see you next time.